Hello everyone and welcome to another video review. I'm Rodney Reynolds with 3GameMan.com, and today I'm looking at the NZXT, or NZXT if you prefer, Phantom 240 case. So this is coined the P240. It's a mid-tower case and it has all kinds of color options. And I'll go through that in just a minute. The box, well, it isn't much to look at, but it does have enough information on it, so if you are picking it up in store, you can get a really good idea what the product is all about. You've got a big picture of the product on the front, some features and specifications about it on the sides and at the back. It's packaged very well between two pieces of styrofoam, and the case itself is in a plastic bag. Now they have protective plastic on the top as well as at the front, and they have a piece of tape here to keep the door closed as well. Then they have protective plastic on the left side panel, and the window is also protected on the outside as well as on the inside. This case is mainly comprised of steel, but it does have lots of plastic as well as mesh. It measures in at 195 by 530 by 529 millimeters, and it weighs in at 8.1 kilograms. The overall look, styling, fit and finish, and build quality on this case is quite good. That's of course if you like this shape of a case, and they've done a really good job. I think it does look pretty darn sharp. At the top you've got lots of mesh. Below here you can install up to 2 optional 120 millimeter fans or up to 2 optional 140 millimeter fans. Also at the top are 2 USB 3 ports, the audio jacks for the microphone and headphone, as well as the power button and reset button, and here's a status LED. At the front there's a door, and it's held into place with a clip, not magnets. You can install up to 3 5¼ inch drive bays, and note the branding. That's it. Very, very little. There's more mesh at the front bottom. Now they include one 120 millimeter intake fan here, but optionally you can install another 120 millimeter fan. The left side panel has a nice large window, but the right side panel is plain. At the back they include a 120 millimeter exhaust fan, but optionally you can install a 92 millimeter fan. Here's where the motherboard's I/O shield plate gets installed as well. There are 7 ventilated expansion slots, extra ventilation, a couple of rubber ground-mounted holes for routing the water cooling tubes and or cables through. At the bottom is where a standard ATX power supply gets installed, and there's 4 thumb screws, 2 on each side panel as well. Each thumb screw has a rubber washer. This is to cut down on vibrations, but also to prevent the thumb screw from scratching the side panel. This case fits mini ITX, micro ATX, and standard ATX form factor motherboards. There's a fair amount of room to work on the inside. The middle hard drive cage right here is actually removable, so that will give you a little bit more length for the video card. Now you can have a video card that is up to 400 millimeters. That's without the hard drive cage, but with the hard drive cage installed you can have a video card that is up to 290 millimeters in length. Now as for power supply length, that is 200 and probably 80 millimeters, because you have to allow for the back cables. Also, it really depends on if you have the bottom optional 120 millimeter fan installed or not. And note that they have 4 rubber rests for the power supply to lodge on. Oh, and cooler height is 158 millimeters. Now, while the motherboard tray is not removable, they do include a large hole on it, and this is for the cooler's retention plate. They have lots of cable management holes as well as punch outs on the other side of the motherboard tray to organize cables back there, and there's ample space, 17 millimeters, behind the motherboard tray and the right side panel. No fancy toolless design on the expansion slots. They just use thumb screws, and that's perfect. But they do have a toolless design for installing the 5¼ inch drives. And there's 2 drive cages. Remember, the top one is removable, and you can put up to 3 2.5 inch or up to 3 3.5 inch drives in each. Now as for advanced liquid coolers or radiator options in this case, well, there isn't many, to be honest, because at the back, while they do include a 120 millimeter fan, it is a tight fit, and I don't know if a 120 millimeter ALC would fit here or not. Even a 120 millimeter radiator, it really depends on the size of that. Also at the top, you should be able to fit no problem a 120 or a 140 millimeter ALC or radiator, and alternatively you could go with a 240 or a 280 millimeter radiator. With the right side panel removed, have a look behind the motherboard tray. As you can see, they already organized some cables back here. Plenty of space to do so. Note again this large hole on the motherboard tray for the cooler's retention plate as well. This is where you would install the drives. So you just pinch here to remove the plastic drive rail. You can just go ahead and pop a 3.5-inch drive in. No screws are really required for that, but screws are required for installing a 2.5-inch drive. And then once you've done that, just slide it back into place. At the bottom here, they include an accessory box, and in it, I would imagine, are your typical stuff. You've got some cable ties and screws, as well as an installation guide. Now, to remove this top drive cage, just take off 2 thumb screws and then slide it out from the other side. At the bottom, they include a removable dust filter for both the power supply's intake fan and the optional 120 millimeter fan. Plus, there are 4 tall plastic feet, but these do have rubber inserts on the bottom. It's excellent that they are tall, because if you have this on a soft surface like carpet, it will allow the bottom fan or fans to intake cool air. To recap, they include 2 fans, 1 120 millimeter intake fan at the front, and 1 120 millimeter exhaust fan at the back. Now have a listen to the stock cooling. Now, NZXT are known for their shapely, bold case designs. I don't know what else to call it, because I don't think it's elegant, at least not in my books, but I guess, thank goodness, everyone's style isn't the same, because otherwise it would be tremendously boring, right? If you like the styling on this case, the rest of it fits together really well. You've got a couple of fans included. You can install many more. There's water cooling possibilities as well. They include lots of places to install drives. Remember, that drive cage can be removed to allow for longer video cards, a hole on the motherboard tray, and so on and so on. As well, this case is way under $100. So the bang for the buck on this case is tremendous. And because of all of that, it is a kick-ass product. Until next time, take care.